Okay, we're going to try to finish up the life of Samuel here. And just for a little context, Samuel is believed by a lot of scholars to have lived about like 1,000 to 1100 BC, roughly. I mean, no one knows for sure. But, I mean, it's estimated to have been around that time, possibly even later than that, or earlier than that. But anyways, so Samuel, where we left off was when Samuel had subdued the Philistines and then recovered the Ark of the Covenant. I mean, it was kind of a bittersweet victory because like a lot of Israelites also died from just looking at this thing. This thing is some kind of crazy, wild, dangerous technology that they clearly had and possessed. But anyways, they got it back. And Samuel, we're at the point now in First Samuel chapter 8, and he's an old man at this point, and he has his own sons, and his sons kind of follow a similar pattern to his mentor's sons. Like they kind of started doing things that were, a little questionable. They didn't follow the rules specifically, and they were accepting bribes and different things such as that. So the Israelites confronted Samuel about this, and they told him they want a king. They wanted a real king who would look out for their best interests. They wanted to be like the other nations around them, picking up from the ashes of the collapse of the Bronze Age. They wanted to be like the other nations. They wanted a king. They wanted a real leader, one that wasn't going to stab them in the back and whatnot, understandably. But Samuel takes offense to this. He gets offended by this, and he's not the only one who gets offended by this. Yahweh gets offended by this, and Yahweh is very manipulative, in my opinion, about this. He kind of inflates Samuel's ego a little bit, says like, oh no, it's not you that they've rejected. It's me as their king they've rejected. And so, kind of manipulative, but he does kind of put fuel in the fire with Samuel here. And he tells Samuel to warn them what a king will take from them. And it's, a little foreshadowing of the things to come, but basically explaining that they'll just be nothing but slaves to whatever king they choose. They'll essentially be slaves to that king, and he'll own the best of everything that they have, and they'll have to always owe him 1/10 of everything they have, and he'll give the best of everything to him and his friends and his family, and they'll basically get very little out of a situation like that. I mean, it's a good point, I guess, but like at the same time, you can kind of get what they're saying. You know what I mean? You need some sort of structure if they, you know what I mean? They were looking at the country surrounding them, you know what I mean? Like rebuilding their cities and such under leadership and whatnot. And there's a little bit to that. Like, they wanted to be a little more organized. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was necessarily that they wanted someone to own them and own every movement they did. They just needed like structural organization. They needed someone to represent them, someone to organize stuff like a leader would do. I don't think that's so much to ask, but Yahweh and Samuel clearly got offended by this, warned them of what would happen, and they didn't listen. They said, no, we still want a king. So Samuel tells them to all go back to their homes. Isn't that funny that they want a king, but and Samuel concedes, and Yahweh concedes to it, warned them what a king will bring, and then funny enough, they don't let them choose their own king. It doesn't seem like. Of course, I could be wrong. We're about to find out. What actually happens and who chooses who. Now, the story of Saul basically begins. He's excuse me. He's a Benjamite, and a man named Kish, which is Saul's father, lost his donkeys, and he sends Saul and some of his servants to go find these donkeys for him. And they were passing through the hill country of Ephraim, where a lot of this stuff always seems that Ephraim comes up yet again. All the drama happens in Ephraim. I do want to note that this could be important, maybe not. The scripture does says, 1 Samuel 9 verse 2, that Saul not only was a handsome young man, but he was like at least like a head taller than anyone else. So he was also very tall. Don't know if that's relevant. Just thought I mean, there's a scripture saying it. So, just thought I'd mention it. Okay, so anyway, so Kish, which is Saul's father, his donkeys are lost, and he sends Saul and some of his servants to go find the donkeys, and they go through the hill country of Ephraim, like always. But the donkeys weren't there, so they move on from Ephraim. What? You're telling me they're leaving Ephraim? What? The drama's not going to happen there? There's a first. So they leave, and then they go through the territory of Benjamin, which is kind of strange. I already thought they were Benjamites. I don't know. But they have to go back through the territory of Benjamin, and then they reach a place in the district of Zuph. Zuph. I mean, it's still the basic general area of Ephraim, still the basic general area, but it's its own place. It's like near Mizpah and all those places that, So anyways, so we're in 1 Samuel 9, verse 5. When they reached the district of Zuph, Saul said to the servant who was with him, "Come, let's go back, or my father will stop thinking about the donkeys and start worrying about us." But the servant said, "Look, in this town there is a man of God. He is highly respected, and everything he says comes true. Let's go there now. Perhaps he will tell us what way to take." Now, I mean, if you think that that's a little bit much for some donkeys, that was pretty important back then. I mean, that was their means of survival, essentially. They needed all their livestock animals, that they depended highly on their animals. So it was pretty important to find them. So it's and going to prophets, and you see, that's what they call basically a shaman or a seer, but they're basically this. It even says it here in this chapter that it's basically the same thing. That in 1 Samuel 9, verse 9, formerly in Israel, if someone went to inquire of God, they would say, "Come, let us go to the seer." So, I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. All these ancient cultures had their own version of it. And who is this seer that they go to? I don't know. I have a feeling, but let's read on and find out. So Saul and his servants decide to go. They decide to go see the local seer. And they ask the ladies that they see coming to get water or something like that, where the seer is, and they point them in the right direction. Now, as he's going to see the seer, who, spoiler alert, does happen to be Samuel, he happens to run into Samuel. And now, pause, because the Bible kind of does like a time jump before we actually find out what happens or what takes place when Saul meets Samuel for the first time. The Bible mentions that the previous day, Samuel had talked to Yahweh. And Yahweh says, here, I'll read to you exactly what Yahweh told Samuel the day prior to this meeting. In 1 Samuel 9, verse 16. "About this time tomorrow, I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin. Anoint him ruler over my people, Israel. He will deliver them from the hand of the Philistines. I have looked on my people, for their cry has reached me." Their cry of wanting a king. "So when Samuel caught sight of Saul," I'm still reading, "the Lord said to him, 'This is the man I spoke to you about. He will govern my people.'" So you see, the people who wanted the king didn't get to choose the king. But the one who did not want them to have a king got to choose the king. Isn't that weird? So he warned them at how bad the king would be. Gee, I wonder how he knew that, since he was the one who ended up appointing that king. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. It's like common sense to me. He obviously... Anyways, let me not spoil anything, because the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. Now, Saul sees Samuel, and he asks them, "Excuse me, is the seer here?" And then Samuel says, "I'm the seer. You go on up ahead of me, because I am inviting you to eat with me." And that was a big deal, you know what I mean? Apparently he couldn't invite everybody to come eat with him. He was the local seer, he was a busy man. A lot of people wanted his, attention. So, anyways, so Saul goes up ahead of him. And funny enough, Samuel already knows what he's there for. He tells him to not worry about the donkeys, that they've been recovered. And he says in verse 20, "As for the donkeys you lost 3 days ago, do not worry about them. They have been found. And to whom is all the desire of Israel turned, if not to you and your whole family line?" And Saul was a little confused. He's like, "But am I not a Benjamite from the smallest tribe of Israel? And is not my clan the least of all the clans of the tribe of Benjamin?" So not only is he in a not very favorable tribe, if you recall from my previous videos in Judges, I believe. Yeah, in Judges. Benjamite was kind of like a disgraced tribe at that. Like, you know what I mean? They were kind of like a disgraced tribe. The other tribes didn't even want to willingly give them women because Yahweh didn't even like the tribe of Benjamin, which is funny, odd to me. But that doesn't seem to matter to Samuel. So Saul and Samuel, they ate together, they dined together, and they sat up and talked together all night. And then the day comes, and Samuel says, "Send your servants ahead because I want to give you a message from God." So, Saul sends his servants ahead. Now we're in 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 1. "Then Samuel took a flask of olive oil and poured it on Saul's head and kissed him, saying, 'Has not the Lord anointed you ruler over his inheritance? When you leave me today, you will meet 2 men near Rachel's tomb at Zelzah on the border of Benjamin. They will say to you, the donkeys you set out to look for have been found. And now your father has stopped thinking about them and is worried about you. He is asking, what shall I do about my son? Then you will go on from there until you reach the great tree of Tabor. 3 men are going up to worship God at Bethel. We'll meet you there. One will be carrying 3 young goats, another 3 loaves of bread, and another a skin of wine. They will greet you and offer you all of this, or the 2 loaves of bread, which you will accept from them.'" And then, oh my gosh, he's going on and on and on. "After that, you will go to Gibeah of God, where there is a Philistine outpost. As you approach the town, you will meet a procession of prophets coming down from the high place with lyres, timbrels, pipes, harps being played before them, and they will be prophesying. The Spirit of the Lord will come powerfully upon you, and you will prophesy with them. And you will be changed into a different person. Once these signs are fulfilled, do whatever your hand finds to do, for God is with you." That is so creepy, right? Let me finish this. Verse 8, "Go down ahead of me to Gilgal. I will surely come down to you to sacrifice burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, but you must wait 7 days until I come to you and tell you what you are to do." Very interesting, right? I wonder what he means by different person. Like, does he mean that he will be more spiritually awake, or does he mean the opposite? Will it be a demon possession? I don't know. That's a little creepy though, especially if anyone who actually knows the rest of the story. This is kind of a troubling statement to make, in my opinion, but anyway. Verse 9 says, "As Saul turned to leave Samuel, God changed Saul's heart, and all these signs were fulfilled that day." So everything, basically all that stuff that Samuel said would happen, happened. And that Saul's heart was changed. And there was people that were around Saul who knew Saul, who were shocked, who barely recognized him. They even say, "What is this that happened to the son of Kish? Is he also a prophet?" So this was a surprise to them. This was a surprise to everybody who knew Saul. So now, Saul's uncle asked him where he's been. He said, "I was looking for the donkeys," but, he went to Samuel, and then his uncle's curious. He was like, "Well, what'd he say to you? What'd he say to you?" And Saul didn't tell him about the thing about him being king right away. He didn't tell him about that part. He just said that we would find the donkeys. Now, verse 17, we're in 1 Samuel 10, verse 17. Samuel summoned the people of Israel to the Lord at Mizpah. I think this is where they were keeping the Ark of the Covenant at that point. And said to them, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought Israel up out of Egypt, and I delivered you from the power of Egypt and all the kingdoms that oppressed you. But you have now rejected your God, who saves you out of all your disasters and calamities. And you have said, 'Now appoint a king over us.' So now, present yourselves before the Lord by your tribes and clans." And when Samuel had all of Israel come forward by tribes, the tribe of Benjamin was taken by lot. Then he brought forward the tribe of Benjamin clan by clan, and Matri's clan was taken. Finally, Saul son of Kish was taken. But when they looked for him, he was not to be found. So they inquired further of the Lord, "Has the man come here yet?" And the Lord said, "Yes, he has hidden himself among the supplies." And they ran and brought him out, and he stood among the people. He was a head taller than any of the others. And Samuel said to all the people, "Do you see the man the Lord has chosen? There is no one like him among all the people." And then everyone shouted, "Long live the king." Samuel then explained to the people the rights and duties of kingship, wrote them down on a scroll, and deposited before the Lord. Then Samuel dismissed the people to go to their own homes. And Saul also went to his home in Gibeah, accompanied by valiant men whose hearts God had touched. Isn't that interesting? But some scoundrels said, "How can this fellow save us?" They despised him and brought him no gifts. But Saul kept silent about it all. Kind of seems to be like another thing that Yahweh typically likes to do. You know what I mean? He likes to take one, says, "Okay, this guy is above you all." He likes to stir up drama. It's another low vibrational red flag that you see about Yahweh in this whole entire story. It's a big red flag. And that's what I'm really kind of like keeping my eye out for through all these stories, are the things that we've convinced ourselves are from like a high vibrational God or being or whatever. And it seems I'm having trouble finding any of the high vibrational stuff. This is all low vibrational stuff. The emotional manipulation, the talking down to them constantly. Like he really treats them like they're just like nothing. Like absolute nothing. But anyway, Saul does get a chance to kind of prove himself, you know what I mean? This all apparently, according to this, happened, he was appointed to the king, and then he ends up rescuing like a city in Israel. Okay, now, someone by the name of Nahash, an Ammonite, went up and besieged Jabesh Gilead. And all of the men of Jabesh said to him, "Make a treaty with us, and we will be subject to you." But Nahash, the Ammonite, replied, "I will make a treaty with you only on the condition that I gouge out the right eye of every one of you, and so bring disgrace on all of Israel." And so they decided, they asked if they could send messengers to go and to get help, and that if help wouldn't come, they would surrender to this request, I guess. And I guess the Ammonite Nahash agreed to it, because the message gets to Saul, and Saul gets very angry. He chops up like an ox and sends like it in pieces to all the different people of Israel, and says, "This is what's going to happen to your animals if we don't, we got to come out and stand in solidarity to get solidarity. We got to come and for the town of Jabesh Gilead." And they sent message to the town that they were going to be rescued and all of this, and they were all excited. But they still told the Ammonites, "Don't worry, if we don't get help, we're going to surrender. But Saul and his people, they ambushed the Ammonites in the dead of night, went into their camp, and just started slaughtering them. And thus Saul rescues this whole city. So then, the people are pretty, pleased with this. They viewed Saul as like a hero, more or less, at this point, it seems. So then, they were so pleased, in fact, that they anoint Saul as king a second time, it looks like, with Samuel. I don't know. It was a bit strange. And so Samuel is more or less is like, okay, look, guys, I've done everything you asked. I've been a faithful, good leader to you all these years. You know what I mean? I never cheated any of you. I never taken anything that didn't belong to me. I never, acted shady or anything. I think I've earned the right to like retire basically and like basically to be like left the hell alone. You know what I mean? More or less, you know what I mean? And he asked them, don't you agree? Don't you think I've done my job? And they're like, yeah, you've done a pretty good job. No, you haven't stolen nothing from us and this and that and the third. And then Samuel, like all these leaders do, they go through the story of Egypt about how Yahweh rescued them from Egypt and did all of this amazing, wonderful things for them, you know what I mean? Didn't, hurt them more than Egypt did, or didn't, slaughter them, starve them, traumatize them. No, didn't do none of that. You know what I mean? He's just been a peach and a gem to these people up until this point, at least from what we read, right? Yeah. Amen. Amen. And then, of course, has to, basically say it's all your all's fault. Everything that has ever been wrong, all these people that died and got slaughtered and this and that, it's all been their fault. It was all Israelites' fault. You know what I mean? How dare they ask for water or food or their basic needs? You know what I mean? They should have been above that. You know what I mean? They should just, just grovel to Yahweh, because Yahweh has just done so much for them, and they just kept turning on him and like following other gods. So Yahweh had to punish them. You know what I mean? He did that for their own good. He sold them into slavery for their own benefit and their own good. I mean, what choice did they give him? You know what I mean? He freed them, put them in a desert so they could wander there and not ever go anywhere, because he freed them. You know what I mean? He freed them, put them in a desert. You know what I mean? A lot of them got swallowed by the earth, or got bitten by snakes, or died of leprosy. But you know what? He freed them. They only got to eat manna, and the little bit of meat they did get was poisoned and rotten and turned and killed a lot of them. But he freed them. And they should be grateful. And Samuel, in good, fashion, because, he's, speaking on behalf of Yahweh, wants to remind them how evil it was that they would even ask for a king to begin with. And it's pretty odd, given everything that's happened here. But I'll read. I'm still in 1 Samuel chapter 12. Let's see where to begin. Verse 14. If you fear the Lord and serve and obey him and do not rebel against his commands, and if both you and the new king who reigns over you follow the Lord your God, good. But if you do not obey the Lord, and if you rebel against his commands, his hand will be against you, as it was against your ancestors. Now then, stand still and see this great thing the Lord is about to do before your eyes. Is it not wheat harvest now? I will call on the Lord to send thunder and rain, and you will realize what an evil thing you did in the eyes of the Lord when you asked for a king. So then, because, he's got to traumatize them once more. Then Samuel called on the Lord, and that same day the Lord sent thunder and rain. So all the people stood in awe of the Lord and of Samuel. And remember, awe doesn't necessarily mean a good thing back then. It meant they were terrified. The people all said to Samuel, "Pray to the Lord your God for your servants so that we will not die. For we have added to all of our other sins the evil. Oh my God, we asked for king. I can't believe we've done it." And then, because it's not manipulative at all, Samuel's like, "Oh, it's okay. Don't be afraid. Even though you've done all this evil, yet you have not turned away from him, and still serve him with all your heart." It's very manipulative, actually. You know what? It's like even though you're evil and you're worthless and you're terrible and all this, you know what I mean? Yahweh still loves you and still wants to see you do good. It's like more low vibrational behavior that we can add to the list. more low vibrational behavior. Anyways, and I'm not even necessarily blaming Samuel. I mean, he probably honestly thinks that he's serving their best interest by traumatizing them, or getting Yahweh to traumatizing them even more. And then he kind of anyways, let me keep reading, because he kind of does like a little thing there, kind of jabs them, but kind of puts himself above them, like he's like morally superior to them. But, okay. For this, verse 22, for the sake of his great name, the Lord will not reject his people, because the Lord was pleased to make you his own. As for me, far be it from me that I should sin against the Lord by failing to pray for you. And I will teach you the way that is good and right. But be sure to fear the Lord and to serve him faithfully with all your heart. And consider what great things he's done for you. Yet if you persist in doing evil, both you and your king will perish. And then, it doesn't disappoint, because things do start to get a little chaotic here. Now we're in 1 Samuel 13. And I'm just going to start reading and stop periodically. Okay. Saul was 30 years old when he became king, and in total he reigned over Israel 42 years. Saul chose, this is the beginning of his reign, Saul chose 3,000 men from Israel, blah, blah, blah. Okay, he's basically choosing men to fight against the Philistines. I'm assuming he's thinking that's what he's supposed to do. I don't know. And his son Jonathan was with him, and Jonathan attacked the Philistine outpost in Geba, and then the Philistines heard about it, and then that's when all the shit hit the fan, basically. And more or less, to skip a whole bunch not to skip a whole bunch of it, but basically the Philistines start to outnumber them and gather around them, and their situation gets pretty serious, and they don't even really have weapons or anything. And Saul, decides to call for Samuel, even though poor Samuel, he just wanted to be left alone. But Saul basically, offers burnt sacrifices and calls on Samuel. And here, this is where I'm going to start read verse 11. Samuel finally shows up, and Samuel says to Saul, "What have you done?" And then Saul replies, "Well, when I saw that the men were scattering and that you didn't come right away at the set time, and that the Philistines were assembling at Michmash, I thought, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not sought the Lord's favor, so I felt compelled to offer the burnt offering." Samuel's reply, "You have done a foolish thing. You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time. But now your kingdom will not endure." I'm not really sure what that was supposed to mean. But anyways, "The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him ruler of his people, because you have not kept the Lord's command." Not really sure how he didn't keep the Lord's command. You know what I mean? Like, I think he thought he was following the Lord's command, but this is how Yahweh, he likes to flip-flop. You know what I mean? He likes to flip-flop like that. One minute he's like, kill the Philistines, kill them all. The next minute he's like, oh, I never told you to do that. You know what I mean? He does this all the time. He pulls this crap constantly in these stories. Constantly. Okay, but anyways, verse 16, Saul and his son Jonathan and the men with them were staying in Gibeah in Benjamin, while the Philistines were camped at Michmash. Raiding parties went out from the Philistine camp in 3 detachments. One turned towards Ophrah in the vicinity of Shual, another toward Beth Horon, and the third toward the borderland overlooking the valley of Zeboim, facing the wilderness. And there wasn't a single blacksmith among the whole land of Israel. And, I mean, okay, like I said, I'm not really sure, but it looks like that they're like farming equipment that they do have that they are going to use for weapons. It looks like they got the Philistines to I kid you not. They were paying the Philistines to sharpen their weapons. Like, what? Okay. Anywho, So they paid their enemy to sharpen their tools, and the only ones who actually had real weapons, like actual spears, were Saul and his son, Jonathan. I kid you not. Now, Jonathan, Saul's son, decides to go rogue. Which is probably for the best anyway, because he's like one of the only few that actually has a real weapon. So he decides to go rogue and sneak away from everyone, including his father, to attack the Philistines on his own. And he is convinced that some sort of sign, that Yahweh basically gave him a sign that he was going to be victorious. And that is essentially what happens. He starts, like, the Philistines go up into a big panic, you know what I mean, from Jonathan and the men that Jonathan brought with him. And Saul notices this, and he brings all the rest of them, and, you know, like, quickly, let's attack. While, you know, they're all in confusion, mass confusion, and then their brothers in Ephraim decide to join in on the battle and stuff. And now this is going on, and they want to hunt them down. They're doing well, and Saul commands all of his soldiers, real smart, right, to not eat a single thing. He doesn't want anyone to eat anything until all of his enemies are done and dead. Now, as they're on their way, they stumble into woods and they find a bunch of honey. Now, his son Jonathan apparently didn't hear this rule where they're not supposed to eat anything, and he eats some honey. And the starving Israelites see this and like, don't you know your dad told us we couldn't eat anything? And Jonathan was basically like, well, that's dumb, because look how much better I feel. Look how much stronger I am, because I've actually had something to eat and stuff, and we'll have a better chance of winning. And basically, like, this whole drama ends up playing out because of this. And when Saul is about to, like, attack the Philistines, he inquires via a priest and an altar. He inquires if God's going to help them and actually they'll be victorious. And he doesn't get an answer. And so he demands to know, okay, who is it? Who broke the rules? I know it. I know someone did something wrong. It was you, wasn't it, Jonathan? I know it was you. You're always messing up. You're always doing your own thing. I bet you're the one who broke the rules. And he was right. This had something to do with Jonathan eating honey. And he was like, surely as I live and breathe, you will die, Jonathan. You can never, ever, ever disobey Yahweh. So I'm going to kill you. The Israelites actually stand up for Jonathan. They're like, no, it's because of him that we're still alive. You're not just going to kill him. And so they ended up saving Jonathan's life from his own father. Yes. Crazy, right? Crazy. So it is kind of disappointing and sad. Saul, like, really does seem to really want to do well by Yahweh. Like, so bad that he's willing to, like, just kill his own son, like murder his own son. Like, he's willing to do anything to please Yahweh, it seems. But it does end up not being enough. Now we get to 1 Samuel chapter 15. And I'm going to warn you, this particular part, these passages have come up a lot in this last year or so. Within this past beginning of this new year, leading up to the war that's going on, a certain leader in a certain country, a modern country, invoked the name. Anyway, I'm going to read this and then we'll talk about it. Okay. This is when Yahweh really starts to get ticked off with Saul. Okay. Samuel tells Saul, we're in 1 Samuel 15 verse 1, I am the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over his people Israel. So listen now to the message from the Lord. And this is what he says. I will punish the Amalekites for what they did to Israel when they waylaid them as they came up from Egypt. Now, go attack the Amalekites and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men, women, children, infants, cattle, sheep, camels, and donkeys. Kill every remnant of these people. Yeah, I don't even have to say that this is low vibrational. I mean, you guys get it. This is so low vibrational that it's, anyways. Okay. Okay, so Saul goes to the city of Amalek and he sets up an ambush. But first he tells the Kenites to go away and to leave the Amalekites so that he does not destroy them along with them, because they showed kindness to the Israelites when they came out of Egypt. So the Kenites moved away from the Amalekites, which probably should have tipped them off, but apparently it didn't. So then Saul attacks them, but he does not kill all of them. He actually leaves some animals alive, the good ones, because he thinks, Yahweh would appreciate a good burnt sacrifice. I'm going to, bring these to him. Yahweh doesn't like that. Even if you're doing it to please him, he does not like when you veer from his instructions, not even slightly. If he tells you he wants blue tulips, you better not walk up with purple tulips. That's what I'm saying. And that's essentially what, Saul does. I guess he meant well. But obviously Samuel and Yahweh didn't see it that way. So here we go. In verse 13, when Samuel reached Saul, Saul said, "The Lord bless you. I have carried out the Lord's instructions." But Samuel said, "Well, what then is this bleating of sheep in my ears? What is this lowing of cattle that I hear?" And then Saul answered, "The soldiers brought them from the Amalekites. They spared the best of the sheep and the cattle to sacrifice to the Lord your God, but we totally destroyed the rest." And then Samuel says, "Enough." Samuel is not having it. He is pissed. He is pissed with Saul. "Let me tell you what the Lord said to me last night." So I was like, "Okay, tell me." Samuel said, "Although you were once small in your own eyes, did you not become the head of the tribes of Israel? The Lord anointed you king over Israel, and he sent you on a mission, saying, 'Go and completely destroy those wicked people, the Amalekites. Wage war against them until you have wiped them out.' Why did you not obey the Lord? Why did you pounce on the plunder and do evil in the eyes of the Lord?" "But I did obey the Lord," Saul said. "I went on the mission the Lord assigned me. I completely destroyed the Amalekites and brought back Agag, their king. The soldiers took sheep and cattle from the plunder, the best of what was devoted to God, in order to sacrifice them to the Lord your God." But Samuel replied, "Does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams." Wow, Yahweh has really made a name for himself. He really likes these blood animal sacrifices a lot. So much so that Saul was forced, like when he saw some really big, beautiful animals, he really thought, geez, well, you know what? I bet you Yahweh would really like that. I bet he would really like that and look at favor on me. But, even though he loves and enjoys the constant flow of blood, he more so enjoys being obeyed and having complete dominance. Check. More low vibration. More low vibrational stuff. So yeah, for the rebellion is like the sin of divination, and arrogance like the evil of idolatry. Oh no, not divination. Oh my gosh, no. But wait, isn't Samuel a seer? Anyway, little hypocritical. "Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king." So then Saul admits it. He's like, "I've sinned. I violated the Lord's command and your instructions. I was afraid of the men, so I gave in to them. Now I beg you, forgive my sin and come back with me so that I may worship the Lord." But Samuel said, "I will not go back with you. You have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you." And then as Samuel turned to leave, Saul was desperate and caught hold of the hem of his robe, and it tore and said, "Oh no! You don't rip the outfit of a seer. Samuel said to him, "The Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today and has given it to one of your neighbors, to one better than you." Already sowing division between his new replacement and him. Already sowing division. And poor Saul. I can't help but feel sorry for him just a little bit. I know he's weak and kind of pathetic. I think that's exactly why Yahweh picked him. I think he knew this was going to happen. That he was very much like a pleaser. And he would have done anything to please Yahweh because of this inferiority he felt. I mean, they literally just kind of came out and admitted that. When they first met Saul, they were talking about his inferiority complex. And Yahweh knew he could use that to his advantage. And he knew this would happen. He pretty much outlined his whole plan to the Israelites before it even happened. And, it's sad it's a pattern of his. It's a pattern of his. But we're going to leave off there because when we come back, we will begin, the story of David begins. And so, wow, right? The Amalekites, because like I said just a minute ago, that foreign leader just recently, not just with the Palestinians, he said the same thing about other people. He just likes to pull that name out, and that's a big deal, because as we just read, Yahweh really didn't like these people. He really didn't like these people, and he wanted them, this is how much hatred this being has. He had so much hatred. He wanted to kill the infant babies. He wanted to kill their pets, their animals, their livestock. What did the animals do? For real. This is how much hatred. And you can't tell me that something with that much hatred for a group of people, the innocent along with the guilty, has that much hatred that he is morally... it's stop playing these games. This is clearly a demon of some kind. This is not a god. This is a demon. I mean, he basically just called for the entire genocide, not just of them, but of their animals too. What the hell? I mean, really, when you really look back and think and wonder, what happened to make the world so, the way it is, and you read stuff like this and just the deep layers of interwoven conflicts and discords that was planted between these people, generational beefs and rivals and stuff that was planted by this same evil entity. And you think about that, and then you think about the thousands of years that's passed since then, how much more layered and deep are these conflicts. This has been going on for so long. It's no wonder that there's always a war in any given decade somewhere in the world. It's these entities have been planning these divisions all the way since then. And, we got to stop playing along with these games of division. You know what I mean? There's not one group of people that's better than another. You know what I mean? No one's better than another person because of their genetics. That's silly and absurd. And we evolved beyond that decades ago. I don't know why we keep going backwards and thinking that this Bible, or at least the Old Testament, why we think that the Old Testament provides any answers to, when all it's ever done is just cause more conflict and division. In my opinion, that's my opinion. I didn't always used to feel that way, but I definitely see it now. And given what we just read, it's pretty obvious. It's kind of embarrassing, actually, thinking that there was a point where I actually justified, genocide and harming children and things like that. That's just wild. But I did, along with everyone else who still does it now. And people get very angry when you bring this stuff up. They get really angry about it. They don't like it. That mind programming snaps in. They go into defensive mode. No matter how you word it, no matter how polite and respectful you try to word things, it's going to offend people. You know what I mean? Because we've been programmed generation after generation after generation after generation. And you can't be mad at people who snap, because, you know what I mean? It's a brainwash. You know what I mean? They're brainwashed. They can't help it. They don't know any better. And just like our parents and our grandparents, they didn't know any better. You know what I mean? They thought that they were doing right by continuing the programming. They thought they were doing right, but I think that's why it's important we talk about it as respectfully as possible, but we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it more. I know it makes people angry, but it's something we really need to seriously talk about. But anyways, that's it for today. We'll start talking about David and his story next week. Everyone, stay safe wherever you're at.